Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Matt Millar, NewThing Regional Director in Sub-Saharan Africa. This is my coronavirus update. Things in Africa were probably about a week or two at least behind what's been going on in the U.S. This last Sunday was the first Sunday really that most churches in the region were not meeting as local churches, and so a lot of the countries haven't been impacted with many cases of coronavirus, but the countries are really cracking down very firmly because of the danger of if the virus were to be able to spread within some of the countries, because social distancing really isn't a thing. There's many highly compact areas of living in a lot of different, especially the major cities. So, for instance, in Nairobi, the city where I live, there's informal settlement that's a mile and a half by a mile and a half wide and long, and there's 1 million people that live there. There's no way that people can social distance themselves because each home has 4 to 8 people living in it, and so it's very difficult for social distancing to happen. There's also a high prevalence of HIV/AIDS throughout sub-Saharan Africa, tuberculosis, other pre-existing conditions that would make coronavirus the fatality rate increase if it were to get through some of these sub-Saharan African countries. And then the medical care just isn't what it is in a lot of Western countries. I think in Kenya there's maybe 200 intensive care unit beds for 45 million people. And so it's just something that the African nations are really trying to crack down very hard on, from keeping the virus from spreading the way that it has in some of the other countries. And so though the impact is less as far as the sickness goes, we're feeling the effects because the governments are making decisions that are closing borders. No international travel in or out in a lot of these African countries. And so people are stuck. There's expatriates who are stuck within those countries. There are Kenyans who are stuck outside of Kenya, other Africans who are stuck outside of their countries of origin because the borders have been closed for the foreseeable future. And so that's where we are. The church is working to figure out what's the best way to reach people in this season, what's the best way to care for people. There's a lot of mega churches and a lot of large churches that are used to meeting in large groups on Sundays, and now they can't. And so that's disrupted just the way that they do ministry, the way that they think about ministry and mission. A number of churches don't have Wi-Fi access for their congregants, so they can't stream their videos or their sermons on Sunday because their congregants don't have access to data or to Wi-Fi. And so there's a number of challenges that they're facing that many Western churches may not know about or may not face themselves. But ultimately, we're all asking the same questions. Ultimately, we're trying to figure out, how do we connect with people? How do we care for people? How do we keep the mission in front of us and continue to try to disciple people well, to raise leaders, to make an impact through social justice and mercy ministries? And how do we stay relevant? And then how do we make ends meet financially? I think almost every church around the world right now are asking those similar questions, and it's no different in Africa. And so you can pray for us, pray for the African church, that we would find ways to unite with each other, that we would find ways to overcome some of the unique obstacles that we're facing in this season, and that we would set the tone, because in a lot of ways the African church is setting the tone, because there's some amazing, unique, and creative things that are happening in a number of the churches around Africa. And we're still believing God by faith. We're trying to push forward. We're trying to see even more churches planted in this season than we were before, when the doors were open, when the borders were open. And so just pray for continued faith, pray for continued boldness, continued courage, and unity in ways that maybe we've never seen before in the continent and around the world. So thank you very much.